Do you want to stay more focused on the right goals in your life, or even just figure out what the right goals are for you? Do you want clarity? Do you want better work-life balance? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Success Through Failure.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. Today, I bring you Dr. Isaac Greeley. For years, I struggled to find the clarity of purpose in my life and the single-minded focus that I had when I was an athlete. It just felt like I was working hard but not really getting any closer to where I wanted to go. And to be honest, I really didn't even know or have a clear vision on where I wanted to go. Then I discovered a powerful 4-step blueprint that I began to apply to my life, and it changed everything. Now, every morning, I'm excited to attack the day because I have a clarity of purpose and I have confidence in my plan, and I have peace of mind in knowing that I'm back on that path to elite success. Anyone, and I mean anyone, can use this 4-step process to recreate the key elements in the life of an elite performer so you can regain that clarity of purpose and that single-minded focus so that you can both achieve your goals and live a balanced life. I created a free PDF for you outlining the 4-step Reveal Your Path Blueprint for Success. Just go to jimharshawjr.com/blueprint. That's jimharshawjr.com/blueprint to get instant access to that free PDF. My goal with this episode is to bring you another interview with a, quote, regular guy who has found a way to find balance, surround himself with positivity, and have it all, like have all the things in his life that he really wants. And I want to show you that you can lead an amazing life and achieve meaningful goals while not being, an internationally acclaimed speaker, an author, or a Navy SEAL, or et cetera, like some of these celebrities or semi-celebrities that I bring on the show. My guest today, Isaac, is, really he's anything but a regular guy. So maybe in some ways I failed you to bring on a regular guy. But let's dive into his story. He's an absolutely incredible individual. He's an entrepreneur. He's a coach. He's a chiropractor. He's the owner of the Mat Factory, which is an MMA, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu club just outside of Pittsburgh. He's also got he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. At 42 years old, we're the exact same age. We graduated high school together. As a matter of fact, he and I wrestled each other when we were kids, like way, way back in the day. We're probably like 10 years old or something like that. So Isaac's 42. He not only trains and spars with his athletes, including professional fighters, he's a professional fighter himself. So further, he's also a partner in a chiropractic practice with 4 locations. He's a father. He's a husband. He's an avid outdoorsman, fly fishing junkie. He's a philanthropist. And if you've ever heard the phrase, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Well, Isaac is that busy person who people come to get things done. And he gets them done. He's one of the original Pathfinders. That is, he was a member of one of my earliest Reveal Your Path groups. And he continues his growth through my inner circle, the Reveal Your Path Pro program. And I just want to explore Isaac's mindset today and his methodology for getting so much done in the same 24 hours and facing his fears and doing scary things that most of us shy away from. And we're going to dive into how he gets all that done. And if you don't have time to listen to this entire episode, or if you hear something you like, don't have a chance to write it down, make sure you grab your copy of the action plan. You know the deal. Just go to jimharshawjr.com/action. Isaac, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Jim. Geez, that's going to be hard to
that's
live
you.
Up to, but
yeah,
I'm ready to be ready to get after it.
Good. Well, you always do get after it, Isaac, which is why I wanted to have you on. I mean, you and I have been working together for, I don't know, at least a couple of years now, and I'm just always blown away. You come into these calls and you tell me that stuff that you've just gotten done. I'm like, you did what? And it's just stuff that most people shy away from. And you're always moving forward. You're always doing things that are scary, that are hard, facing your fears. And I just want to explore that a little bit. So first, let's do this. Tell us just maybe briefly kind of 30,000 foot view of your background, where you grew up and kind of how you got from there to here.
I grew up in Pennsylvania, in a little town called Rowlett in Potter County, Pennsylvania, which is the most rural county in the state. So grew up with surrounded with a great family. I had two brothers and two sisters. Great mother, mom and dad that didn't really push me too hard in anything I did. They just kind of supported me more. And grew up around a lot of great people, had great coaches at a young age that made positive impacts on my life. And surrounded with just great people, rural Pennsylvania people that were honest, hardworking. I took a lot of the values that, I was taught as a kid that I just thought were normal. And, it used to be my life. And it's, been a blessing just to be around that kind of people growing up. So that was really cool. I went to college at Pitt Johnstown, wrestled there for the legendary Coach Papakura, who was really instrumental on changing my mindset and my work ethic. And I went on to go to chiropractic school and graduated.
Let me jump in right there. He was also a two-time All-American, if I'm not mistaken. Were you runner-up too, Isaac?
Yeah, second and third.
Yeah. Okay.
Second and third for Pat, and we won a couple national team championships, which was really the highlight of my wrestling career, I would say, being a part of a team that was a championship team, which was really, really cool and an exceptional experience. And then off to
chiropractic school. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, chiropractic school. Met my wife, Laura, and actually went to school. Graduated. One of my undergraduate friends, who I actually lived with for a year at chiropractic school, he had already graduated and had joined a practice with another guy. So Dr. Ralph Petrarca had originally started the rehab center, and then Jason had joined the practice as an associate. And then when I graduated, I joined the practice as well. Then we all basically decided that we all become partners and expand. So we actually have 5 locations right now. We're starting number 6 here in a couple months. We're opening up our 6th office. So for
the listener, you can see what I mean. You can see what I mean. Every time I talk to Isaac, it's like he would 4 locations. Now he has 5. Now he's opening a 6th. He's always moving forward. So go ahead, Isaac.
Yeah, so that's basically it. And I just coach wrestling at Borough High School. Been doing that for 16 years. And like you said, the Math Factory is my baby. That's my where I get to coach and get to work out still. I just got done with a workout this morning. I get to grapple, get to wrestle, get to teach, get to learn. So it's kind of like my haven and my safe place that I get to go to daily almost. And it's just a lot of great people have joined and helped, and it's been probably like the funnest thing that I've ever done as outside of my fly fishing and other passions that I have. It's kind of the thing that I look for as my therapy. So it's been a great blessing.
For the listener, you can probably already tell everything Isaac says is pretty understated. It's, he's just a wrestling coach, and he just does this, just does that. There's a lot here that we're going to unpack. And more importantly, we're going to unpack how you, the listener, can turn the dial up, can get things done, but also stay in balance and find the balance and make sure you're focused on the right things in your life, not just achieving goals and pushing yourself, but making sure you're pushing yourself in the right directions. And Isaac, you talked about growing up surrounded by the right people who had a positive impact on you. You seem like you carry that philosophy in your life now. I always talk about how, we look back at our life as athletes. For any listeners who were an athlete at some point, you look back and you go, okay, it was important to have a coach then. And what was at stake? Well, maybe the state championship or the starting spot on the team or whatever. But like now, what's at stake in your life? So much more is at stake in our lives, so it's so much more important even now because it's our family, it's our livelihoods, it's our hopes and dreams, it's everything. And it's so important to surround ourselves with that positivity. But Isaac, you seem like you implement that same philosophy in your life now. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I a lot of it's luck. A lot of it's based on luck and the people that you meet or influence you. I got really lucky to have people at a young age kind of step in and see my potential and kind of lead me in a direction. And I had my first wrestling coach made the sport a lot of fun for me. And to this day, we're still very close. We run a wrestling camp together. And, we've kept that fun going. It never died down. So from the time I was 9 years old till 42, him and I still have the same fun wrestling that we did back then. He still makes it fun for me, and he initiated that love for the sport that made it very important to get through some of the tough times that wrestling throws at you, some of the failures and the rough, the stuff that people don't want to talk about, the hard times of wrestling, losing matches, losing weights, the studying and wrestling and balancing. So he made it fun for me. So Sean Lathrop was the original guy, along with a couple other coaches that got me going. And then my high school coach was John Kreiner, who had never wrestled himself personally, but had made wrestling like his lifelong passion. So he showed me that you could use wrestling as a vehicle to do whatever you want. So he got me to believe in that. And then from there, I got, I had already been super blessed with those two individuals, along with a few others, that when I got to college, I had Coach Pat Pecora in my life. It was just, he knew exactly what to say to me, when to say it, how to motivate me. And, without those, three specific people in my life, I probably would have went down a whole other path. So, with great parenting, I have to say that a lot of my successes have been, I've been just fortunate and blessed to have the right people in my life at the right time. As most people, successful people will say the same thing, I'm sure. So
in what ways do you
what
ways do you intentionally bring people into your life now?
Well, I've been seeking out more positive people. I don't want to, I call it trimming the fat. I don't want to be around people that are going to, bring me down or, say, that things are going to be too hard or I can't do this. I just try to surround myself with people that, have the same mentality that I have. Because that once you get a momentum with positive people, it seems like if you surround yourself with the right people, you can get a lot more done. You can get a lot more accomplished. You can realize, issues and problems and get through them faster. And that's kind of where you stepped in to help me, Jim, because I got to the point in my life where I was taking on too much. I was getting overwhelmed. My balance was off. And then I needed to reassess my core values, see what was important, really, really important to me. Because that's, I had a hard time saying no. I had a hard time balancing all my things I really, really wanted to do with work and with my family and everything. So it became a very tricky scenario for me because I didn't want to fail at any of them, but I was almost forced with failure with something. So I had to prioritize things. And by, joining Reveal Your Path, which I started, program was a great breakthrough for me because I got to be around like-minded people that were having the same type of issues, maybe just a little differently. And they all had great insights and different ways of combating things and balancing things. And, gave me great advice when I needed it the most. So that was a big, big step for me to actually reach out for some coaching of my own. So once I had that coaching, I could kind of take the positives from that and incorporate it into my life. And that's when I really noticed some major gains that I had been striving for that I kind of got plateaued on. So that's kind of where that kind of laid in with my groundwork with the last couple of years of successes.
And let me follow that up by saying, and I say this really to the listeners, is, Isaac talked about luck, being, having that luck of being surrounded by the right people. And maybe you've had that luck in your life too. Maybe you haven't. I'm sure if you look back, there are probably positive and negative influences in your life. And Isaac could probably look back and see some negative influences in his life. And he obviously had the positives too, and he's choosing to look at those. And there was also something that wasn't luck, taking money out of his bank account, investing it into Reveal Your Path. And this is not a show about promoting RYP. This is about investing in yourself, whether it's buying a book or going to therapy or counseling or hiring a coach or whatever the case might be. It's investing in yourself, and he continues to do that. So that part's not luck. That part is actual commitment, making a commitment to yourself to improve and to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And one of the things that we do on our monthly calls that Isaac's now part of in the Reveal Your Path Pro group is we leave every call with action items. And Isaac a couple months ago said had just finished a professional fight and a couple months earlier, it had been a little while since that last fight. And he said, I'm going to come back to my one of my action items is to come back to our next call in a month with a new big scary goal that I'm going to put myself in an uncomfortable situation to do. And so we show up on that next call, and so Isaac, I'm going to let you kind of take it from here, but Isaac said, well, my goal, my action item was to come back to this call and tell you what my new goal was. Well, he goes, I had an opportunity actually to accomplish a scary goal. So can you tell us about that, Isaac?
Yeah, it was, that's kind of where I find like I make my most gains is when I'm actually faced with fear. I think that's a pretty good motivator for positive. You can use it for very positive things in your life. So yeah, we had the call, and I wanted something scary. I wanted to make a goal that was going to, force me to really dive into my mind and my fears. And one of my fighters we had a grappling matches set up, and professional grappling matches. And he suffered an injury, and then the promoter was looking to fill it, and he asked me if I'd do it last minute, like within about maybe 3 days. So I was like, I said, well, this is exactly, what I said I would do, and this is my opportunity. So of course,
Isaac,
yes.
Let me just jump in real quick. So the fighter, was it Dominic that was supposed to take that fight that got injured?
Yeah.
Okay. And for the listener, Dominic is really good. I mean, he fought in Bellator, right? Did he fight in Bellator yet?
He's a Bellator fighter.
He's a Bellator fighter. So this is like
Bellator.
He's not like they had this guy paired up with a serious fighter approaching his prime, who's very good at what he does. He's been in Bellator, and so. Okay, go ahead from there. I just want to give people perspective. It's like it wasn't just like some high school kid you were going to go out and roll with. It was like a real fight.
Cool. It was and I do these, I like to I'm kind of a hands-on type of coach. I like to wrestle and grapple with my guys to make sure I know exactly where their strengths and weaknesses are, so we can, try to make gains from there specifically. But so I was training, but not very hard. It was right during my wrestling camp that I run, so I was pretty busy. But yeah, I decided to do it. A couple of days notice, had to lose about 13 or 14 pounds, and just did it. It was easy because I already had the action item planned, even though I didn't know what it was. It presented itself, made it easy for me to say yes to. Competed, and I got to win over a very good competitor. And it was it was just a great experience. And I was one of those things, I was scared to say yes, but once I did, I was committed. And, that's just kind of the mindset that I try to preach to people, and as a coach. So it makes it a little bit easier when you're selling the Kool-Aid to drink it, so to speak. So it was a great experience. I was glad that, my group had, pushed me to that and held me accountable. And then it was very satisfying to go back to the group and say, hey guys, thanks a lot, because I actually stepped out of my comfort zone a little bit this month. And it was a very positive experience for me. So it was great.
So Isaac comes back and tells us, it was over in what, I don't know, 15. So how long did the match last, Isaac?
Oh, actually, he wasn't 15 seconds, but I actually hit a move I had learned I had been drilling that week at wrestling camp before I knew what was going on. One of my friends from Texas was there, black belt. Jason Sampson was there, and we were working on a move. And I had another black belt that was at wrestling camp working with me, Randy Charles. So I had two really great black belts working with this position, and we were just exploring it and working it and drilling it. And then when they said the match was going on, I told Dom, I said, I'm going to try this move if the guy pulls guard. So immediately the guy pulls guard. I'm like, well, right there's the technique. So I hit the technique. To my opponent's credibility, you did a tremendous job defending it. And I had to transition to a Kimura, which is a different finish, to get it. And it took me a few minutes to get there. But the technique that I initially was going to hit presented itself immediately, which is pretty amazing. It was pretty cool experiences to see that after we had just drilled and worked on that for the week. And so we got to execute the technique, and was successful with it this time. We never know with wrestling and grappling how it's going to go, but
sure, it keeps you humble.
Great experience. Yeah, definitely keeps you humble, because I know I take very humble experiences almost on a daily basis at this point. But
yeah, and
it's definitely fun.
And so there was, for the listener again, there was no, this was not a foregone conclusion that Isaac was going to go out and win this match, but he took it anyway. He was not in competition shape. He was not, quote unquote ready. And so, like, what are you, talking to the listener again, what are you not ready for? What are you saying? You know what? Not yet. I'm not ready yet. This is not the time. Maybe wait one more month. Let me get a little more of that. Let me learn a little bit more about that. Let me have one more phone call, listen to one more podcast, read one more book, get one more degree, whatever it is. What are you not ready for that you're afraid of? And what can you move forward? How can you face that fear? And it was interesting when Isaac comes back to our group call and he says this, and it inspired all of us and it challenged all of us on the call. And then, me being the coach and facilitator on this call, it challenged me in the same way it challenged everybody else, going, okay, like, Jim, what are you afraid of? Like, what's the scary thing that you can do? And it just forced me to rethink. And this is, I talk about the environment of excellence and gosh, for me, getting to coach and exist and be around guys like Isaac and all the others on the calls, it holds me accountable as well. And it's just part of my environment of excellence. So I challenge you, the listeners, to go, okay, who am I surrounding myself with? How do I challenge myself? How do I push myself? How do I choose to do something scary and face my fear? So Isaac, thanks for sharing that story. I just want to note that Isaac's sort of humility and respect for his opponent. This is for anybody who's not familiar with MMA or grappling or wrestling for that matter. There's just this inherent level of respect in one-on-one combat. It's not some of this machismo stuff that you see in the weigh-ins and stuff like that on TV. A lot of that's that stuff's. Some of it's authentic. Some of it's just, encouraged a little bit for the show. But there is an inherent respect between fighters here. And Isaac, you've done some work with Spartan races. Joe DeSena and the crew. Can you tell me a little bit and just tell the listeners a little bit about what you've done with Spartan races?
We've had a great relationship with Spartan. One of our grapplers actually has completed their Agoji and their death races multiple times. So we sent a team up last year, last minute, just to try to finish their Agoji race, which is one of their extreme adventure race or endurance races. And we had a team go up and everyone finished it. It turned out really well. We actually ran our first wrestling camp for Spartan at their headquarters this year. During the Agoji, and we had great experience with that. And we're looking at running another camp here in Pennsylvania, hopefully within a year. So we're starting up a nice relationship with Spartan and Joe. We're just trying to show Spartan, the combat side of it. We've ran some of their endurance races themselves. We ran one of them and we incorporated some grappling and wrestling into it, which was like really out of the comfort zone for a lot of the Spartan competitors. But it was really cool because when it was all said and done, we actually had like grappling or takedown matches and clinch matches we put them head to head. And it was a great experience. We had a blast with that. And the feedback was, wow, I never thought I'd ever do that. And, Joe's a big proponent of wrestling. His kids wrestle and he understands the positive benefits of wrestling. So I think that's something that we want to show Spartan, that, there's also the combat side to Spartan, the hand-to-hand, the wrestling, the grappling, but that's part of it. So, us just being able to run their wrestling camps to show that Spartan believes in the wrestling, the power of wrestling and grappling and things like that. It's a big part of their success of their brand. So I think that moving forward, we're just going to kind of keep working with them as much as we can. So I think they do great things, especially in the endurance, racing area. But we want to show that there's some other avenues to go with this as well. So it's been pretty cool.
And on top of that, on top of everything we've already talked about, you also run a camp. Can you talk just briefly about the Bruno Iorfido camp that you just got, wrestling camp that you just got done running, that you run every summer?
Yeah, this probably it's like, the thing that I'm most proud of that I've ever done, just because it means so much. And it's had such a great influence. I've watched it unfold for the last 15 years. So I have a wrestling camp ever since I was a sophomore in college. I'd have my friends, my teammates come back and help me run a wrestling camp. We can make some money and get back to my hometown a little bit. We started our camp in 1996. And I brought up the Strip Matter brothers, who were my teammates, and Troy Barbush, who's my roommate, and a couple other guys. And we would just come up and have a good time, have a wrestling camp for a week. and we just kept going every year. So Bruno was a wrestler at UPJ. He had wrestled at a town not too far away from me at Ridgeway, where I grew up. So I had already known Bruno since he was little, and he actually worked my wrestling camps in the summer, and I got a chance to coach him in college as an assistant. And he's a very, very special kid. He's going into his senior year. Had a really good, legitimate chance at winning a national championship because just the way his work ethic and drive and his character was very high level. So he ended up passing away right after our camp, going into his senior year of college. And Sean Lathrop and I, along with Aaron Rendos at the time, decided to change the camp and to make it into a memorial scholarship camp. So all the money we raised would go to scholarships for kids that were of the same character that Bruno exemplified. So, we thought we started easy and just kind of like we set very high standards for the kids. They had to have a certain GPA going into their sophomore year of college. So we knew they were committed to wrestling. You have to write an essay about how wrestling and how going to camp had changed their life and been a positive influence on their life. So I think we've given out well over 40 scholarships. So we've given out over $40,000 in the last 15 years. We give out 6,000 this year, 6 scholarships this year. So, and it's really cool because the kids that are getting the scholarships now had been coming to camp since they were in 8th, 9th grade, some of them even longer. And to see the character and build into them and the kind of kids they've become, kind of men they've become, and now they're in their, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're applying and writing these essays that are just blowing our minds, and they're just showing the same type of, character that Bruno had and positive things that Bruno had in his life going forward, that they're carrying that on in his name too. So it's really special. And my hometown of Port Allegheny is amazing. I mean, I brought up 96 people this year to camp, between wrestlers, parents that wanted to help, coaches, college clinicians, cooks. I mean, it's a moving unit, and to feed that many people takes a lot of work. But I have people that donate the whole week off of work, and they'll come up and cook, just help me cook and prepare food. And we have a lot of fun, and a lot of my friends come up, a lot of coaches, and a lot of local college coaches come up, and it's just a great experience. And we have a banquet at the end of it. We get to talk about Bruno. So it's really something special, and something that I've, along with Sean and Aaron, we take a lot of pride in, and we want to keep this going for as long as we can.
And it's interesting that, Isaac, you're the kind of guy who people come to and say, hey, I've got this idea, and you run with it, you execute. I remember, I think UPJ Wrestling came to you a year or so ago. I think it was some kind, I can't remember if it was a fundraising campaign or something, that an event or something like that. And you were the guy who they came to and said, hey, Isaac, can you help with this? And you said yes. And you pulled it off, and you say yes to a lot. You do things, it's so cliche to say, follow your passion. Everybody talks, follow your passion, find what you love to do and chase that. And you've really done that, right? And you've done that in a way that motivates other people. And you've done that in a way that you make money, right? You make a living as a chiropractor, you make a living with the gym, although I think that's more of a passion project for you. But like, people step up and help out with this camp that you talked about because your heart's in the right place. You're doing it for the right reasons, and because you care and you live with passion, and people see that and they sense that and they want to be part of that. And I think that's a good lesson for us all. And so you do all of these things, right? You chase your passions, you hustle, you work hard for things that you care about and for people that you care about. And, whenever I talk to, whether on this podcast or to other coaching clients about, in part of Reveal Your Path, is the 4 areas of setting goals. It's relationships, self, health, and wealth. And so I think the self part is pretty evident in everything we've talked about here so far. Self, which is growth, impact, and fun. Growth goals, impact goals, fun goals. That's obvious that you're pursuing so many there. Health, health and fitness, wellness. I mean, you're obviously doing that. You're training. You're in shape, competing at a high level, and wealth. So that's taken care of with everything that you're doing. But what about the first one? Relationships. How do you manage to do all these things? You've got a wife and daughter. How do you manage to get all this stuff done, but stay in balance with with the home, on the home side? Because we all want to crush it at work, and we've talked about everything you're doing. You're crushing it in all these areas. But what about at home? How do you work to keep that in balance, Isaac?
Well, life is a challenge. I mean, you're faced with failures every day, even as successful as people sound. I mean, the most successful people have failures that they're always constantly faced with. And it's really their attitude that, forges them ahead. And when you set your goals, like you're talking about, and this is something I'm new to. I've always set goals. I've always been a goal setter. I've always wrote down my goals. I've always had my goals in front of me, but to actually categorize my goals to make sure I'm hitting on all the important areas has been something that I've only dove into in the last couple of years. And this has really been super important to me to make sure I balance things out. And that's why I started to Reveal Your Path, is because I knew I had issues with balance. I needed to get this, to balance things straight. So being able to see that every day, that, I need this week, I have action items that I need to focus on my relationships with my wife and my daughter and my family and people that are important in my life. My health and my wealth and myself are always underneath that. So you always have to think that what is the most important thing? What is the most important core values to you? Writing down my core values, and the core values might change over time. But when you actually see that, like the most important things, the 3 or 4 most important things, it makes things come to light to where you should be setting your goals. So having Reveal Your Path and Reveal Your Path Pro and listening to certain people and reading certain books has helped me realize where I really, want to see my life at down the road, and, what kind of person I want to become and still be. So that's how I basically, make sure that I'm taking time to work on my relationships. I have set aside a day every week for my daughter. So today is the day that's Daddy Day, that we're going to spend together, the rest of the day. So we have a day or two that we can just focus on our relationship. And then it's great to have a group of people around me for ideas, putting down the phone at home was one thing that one guy in our group had told me, like, that he does. Right. He turns his phone off before he gets in. And it's hard because my phone is constantly going off with different people asking and questions and emails. And so it's hard for me to turn that off at home. And it's always a struggle. And I try to do that the best I can to make sure I have time for my wife at home where we can sit down and just relax and watch TV and watch a movie or talk or catch up on our day. And date nights are very important as well, like scheduling time out where it's just my wife and myself. I like to try to do it on a weekly basis, and sometimes it gets pushed to 2 weeks because of things, but, just having that in your mind that, you don't want to forget about that. That's an important thing. That's the most important thing. So just be able to, try to prioritize my goals. Grappling matches are great and they're awesome, but realistically, in the grand scheme of things, my relationships with my wife and my daughter and my friends and my family are the most important thing. Yeah. So that's kind of what it is. You have to, everyone's different. If I was an Olympic athlete training for Olympic wrestling, maybe I'd put wrestling in front of everything. But at this stage of my life, I'm 42. I enjoy my passions. They're very important to me. Wrestling, coaching, and jiu-jitsu are all, and coaching MMA fighters is all great. But, being able to spend time with my daughter, like yesterday we went to the movies and hung out, went to the mall. Like that time is the most important time to me. So, just setting it aside every week and having a routine is probably the key to my success with that.
Yeah. And so living intentionally is what he's talking about, is just, making sure you pay attention to all those aspects. So Isaac, that in this podcast, I always ask everybody, tell me about a time you failed, and you knew this question was coming. So let's hear it from you. You have had success in every area of your life, and we look at a guy like you and go, wow, man, just crushing it. Can you tell us about a time where you failed, and maybe as a result of that failure, you felt the hopelessness, maybe that self-doubt, but were able to overcome it and achieve either despite it or maybe because of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've failed. That's why I love the name of this podcast, Success Through Failure, because I feel you're speaking directly to me. So how many times I've failed, not achieved things I wanted to achieve, and had to, pick myself up, dust myself off. Probably the most significant time was wrestling-based incident when I was a sophomore in college, and I'd finally, really thought that I was putting 100% into my goals. I wanted to be an All-American, and I wanted to try to win a national championship. So I put in everything into this, and I think this is going to speak to you, Jim, because I know you've been through the same type of thing. So I put everything into it. I sacrificed. I wasn't partying. I was 100% committed to my goals. I was 100% committed to eating, living a healthy lifestyle, and staying up with my studies. I was living a clean life, as Coach McCord said. You got to live a clean life. So I was committed to that. I spent the whole year committed to that. I put myself in a position where I was seated high at the national tournament, and I had lost in the quarterfinals. Boom. To an unseeded wrestler who ended up winning the championship that year. And I got thrown in the wrestlebacks. I had a little bit of I can't believe that just happened to me. And we don't really get a lot of time before the blood round starts, as you know. And before I knew it, I lost 2 matches in a row, and my dreams of becoming an All-American were dashed. And I just sat there, and I kind of it was a little self-sabotage because I just couldn't pick myself up from a loss that I probably should, or the match where I was favored to win. And next thing I know, I was, going home. I was crying. I thought I failed. I thought I'd given everything I had. And, I don't think I'd ever cried because of a loss before, but it hurt so bad because of all I'd put into it. I just thought that I was helpless, that no matter what I did, I'd never be able to reach my goals. And luckily I had positive teammates around me, that picked me up and said, you know what, this isn't going to define you. It's just one wrestling match. It's nothing, in the grand scheme of things, it's one tournament. So, I had great coaches that, my coaches decided, that they're going to, keep investing in me, and they knew my potential. So the next year I came back, and I realized there was levels to commitment that I didn't realize after seeing my teammates, the levels that they were committed to it. And it was beyond even what I had put into it. I decided I was going to do what they did. So I had great maps, as we call them, the people that were successful, that I could use what they were doing and kind of map myself. Like, if I wanted to really do what they're doing, I need to do what they do. So I started to do what some of my teammates were doing. John Strittmatter in particular was probably the most influential person with that. He was one of my teammates. He was the same age as me. He was a transfer from Penn State, and he had brought a level of work ethic that I'd never seen into our wrestling room. So I started trying to do what John did on a daily basis. Whatever he did, I tried to kind of mimic that. And I found myself wrestling in the national finals that year. I lost in ultimate tiebreaker, so another failure. But it didn't feel as bad because I knew that I had really leveled up my game, and I learned that there's levels to this, and there's levels to commitment. There's levels to really believing in yourself, and there's levels to having people around you that are positive and not, trying to sabotage you in any way. They were there, that we all loved each other, and we were behind one another. And then my senior year, I took third. I lost in the semifinals and ended up taking third, but our team won the national championship that year. And going through that and seeing the power of team and the power of a group, that was probably the things I took from college I used in my life, like being surrounded with a positive team, coaching, with the same mentality of a team and building each other up and not tearing each other down. And that really was probably how failure in my life was the most beneficial progress tool that I've ever had.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's a tough story that obviously, like you said, I can relate to. And in our last just minute or two together here, Isaac, can you give us one action item that the listener can take in the next 24 to 48 hours to really start moving towards their goals? Maybe it's facing that fear, or maybe something else, but can you give us an action item?
The biggest thing that I take away from everything I've learned is little things. Little things count. Like, even some people might say making your bed, or doing push-ups. We do a thing every month, and our thing is we do an exercise every day. We build on it. It sounds simple, but it just makes you accountable. So pick like one exercise or one thing you want to do. Maybe it's read for 15 minutes, or whatever it is, but just start small, and then you'll see where that takes you. If you have one thing in your life that's consistent, you build a routine around that you're always doing it, it's easy to build other positive routines. And pretty soon, if you have 3 or 4 positive routines that are guiding you and setting your mindset, that changes everything. That's the biggest thing that I would recommend.
Awesome. And how about a tool or a technology or a supplement, an app, or anything like that you do or use that helps you be more effective as a person you can recommend?
Yeah, a couple of things that I really, really like. I got my dad onto this, which he's taken it to a whole other level, and it's really changed his life for positive. Is breathing techniques. We dove into Wim Hof a little bit and his breathing techniques, and we kind of use them. I know I talk about that a lot, but my dad's really dove into it, and it's been a super positive thing for him. And I've seen the effects, and I use it for competition to manage anxiety and things like that. It's really, really good to get you to relax. And we use it in our training also through because my wrestlers use it a lot, and grapplers, we use some breathing techniques after practice, just to kind of condition ourselves. So really positive stuff. There's a lot of research that's coming out now. So that's one thing. I always like the intermittent fasting. I'm in and out of that. Obviously, I think that's got some positive benefits for it as well. So, and being a chiropractor, I always recommend, healthy living, just to, get the power of getting adjusted, the power of eating properly, sleeping properly. It's, just those three things right there can make a major impact on your life.
Awesome. Wise words. Isaac, thank you so much for making time to come on the show.
Jim, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you everything you do, and keep doing it, spreading the word.
Yeah, well, likewise, and for the listener, make sure you grab your free copy of the action plan. Just go to jimharshawjr.com/action. And until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.